Okay, so now the next family, which is the brass family. There are 4 basic instruments in the brass family of your typical orchestra. And this is not in any particular order, but you first have the trumpet, next you have the French horn, then you have the trombone, and you have the tuba. These are the 4 instruments in the brass family. It's good to know that there are things called auxiliary instruments for instruments in the brass family and the woodwind family. I'm going to discuss the auxiliary instruments more in a second here after I go through the woodwinds because it'll tie them together. There's auxiliary instruments for both of those, so I'll just go over some example of those, get you familiar with what auxiliary instruments are. But first, while we're still on the brass section, let's talk about the instruments in here. First, we have the trumpet, which is called a transposing instrument. It's good to know that the trumpet does not always sound the notes that the player is reading. Sometimes we can have a trumpet in C, and this is easy because this means that what we're writing is what the player is going to play. In that case, an instrument that's tuned to C is known as concert pitch, and in fact, that's not a transposing instrument. But in fact, a trumpet usually is a transposing instrument. Oftentimes, it is going to be tuned to B flat. So that means when a player plays the note C, a B flat is going to come out of the instrument. If you want to get into writing for the orchestra, this is a big part of it. It's a little hump in the process that you're going to have to get over. It might hurt your head a little bit, might give you a headache when you think about it in its entirety the first time you actually really go full depth into trying to understand different transposing instruments and really grasping them. But once you actually have that aha moment, it clicks in your head and you understand it, it really just makes sense. And that's how music is. Once you really make sense of things, it's hard to forget it because you understand why it is that way. Okay, so if we compare C to B flat, we can see that C is a major second above B flat. I'm not going to get too much into this in this video, but it's just going to be brief. Okay, this means if we're writing for a B flat instrument, in this case a B flat trumpet, then we can see that C is a major second above the B flat. This means in simple terms that we would just write all of our notes up a major second. That might seem kind of confusing until you just think about what key would be a major second above the key that you're working in, and then you just write in that key. So that's all the information I'm going to give you for now, because I don't want to get too much into transposing instruments, but I'm just going over each of the instruments in the families and what you might see. So moving on from the trumpet, we have the French horn. This can sometimes be written in treble clef and sometimes in bass clef. Again, the French horn is a transposing instrument. Sometimes it is called the horn in F. So this means if your French horn is transposing to F, when it reads the note C, the note F is going to come out of the instrument. In this case, this would be F a perfect fifth below the C. So when the writer wants to write notes for this particular instrument, they're going to have to write everything a perfect fifth above it. And if you know your keys, then you just have to go to the next key up a fifth. I'll have a video actually discussing transposing instruments. We'll try to make sense of this a lot more. And these are just some of the most popular keys that these instruments are going to transpose to. So moving on from the French horn, we're going to go to the trombone. The trombone is actually a non-transposing instrument. This means it's going to play at concert pitch. So if the trombone reads the note C and it plays it, the note C is going to come out of the instrument. Isn't that relieving? The trombone is often going to be written in the bass clef, but sometimes a scoring style in music is that you have 3 different trombones. You have the third lowest trombone in the bass clef, the second is going to be in the tenor clef, and the first will be in the alto clef. So there's where we can see an example of using the tenor clef. It's good to know how to read the tenor clef. When you know how to read each 4 of these clefs, transposing becomes a lot easier. It's a lot more of a headache if you're trying to understand transposing instruments that are written in clefs that you don't know how to read for, because it's going to add an extra step every time. So that's why you need to be able to read proficiently each of the staffs. And actually thinking about it, I have a video that can help you with this. I have 2 different videos. You'll see them linked in the description. They're both going to be Name the Interval. The first one will be for the bass and the treble clef. So if you want a refresher on those, and you also want to be able to read any interval in any key and just know a trick for that, check out that video in the description. And then the next video after that, you're going to see Name the Interval for tenor and alto clef. So this is going to help teach us the same thing. We're going to know how to read intervals in any key. I'll teach you some cool tricks about that. Make it very quick, make it very efficient, and then you're going to learn how to read for the tenor clef and the alto clef. And I explain it pretty well in that video. So it makes it real simple. Make sure you check out that video if you don't know how to read the alto and tenor clef. Okay, moving on from the trombone, we have the tuba. The tuba can come in different keys. Again, it can come in C, and then it would be in concert pitch, and it would not be a transposing instrument, but it also can be a transposing instrument, which means it would be in a certain key that is not C, for example, B flat. And again, this means that when the tuba is going to play that note C, B flat's going to come out of it. And those are the 4 main instruments in the brass family. Typically in an orchestra, these are the instruments you're going to see in the brass family. There are some other instruments that are less commonly used, such as a cornet, which is similar to a trumpet, but in fact, a lot of these different instruments that you will see in the brass section are actually going to be related to these other instruments and will be called auxiliary instruments. Again, I'm going to go over those more in a second.